We have some breaking news as Howie Roseman has made an addition to this Eagles roster with 6 days to go until the start of Eagles training camp. The entire squad going to report to the NovaCare complex in South Philadelphia on July 25th, and that will now include a new offensive tackle and depth piece in Dennis Kelly. This signing just happening moments ago, and if the name sounds familiar, it's because it is a familiar name. He used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, actually, as he got drafted in Andy Reid's final year in Philadelphia. This is Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for being here with us. And let's talk about this signing. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's a little bit late, but the Eagles made a move, so we're here to dissect it. And that's a big reason why we are closing in on 50,000 subscribers. So if you're looking for year-round Eagles content, hit that sub button right now. Tom Pelissero breaking the news just moments ago here on this fine Wednesday, saying this on Twitter that veteran offensive lineman Dennis Kelly signing with the Eagles per source. He has 54 career starts, including 15 in his first stint with Philadelphia from 2012 to 2015. And you take a look at Kelly's career trajectory. He played his college football at Purdue. He's a massive dude. 6'8". Eagles draft him in 2012. That was Andy Reid's final year in the city of brotherly love, as I talked about. It was a disastrous season that year. The Eagles went 4-12. They fire him. They hire Chip Kelly. He was with the Eagles, was Kelly, from 2015 to 2015. Dennis, not Chip. And then he signs with the Tennessee Titans. He's there for a few years from 2016 to 2020. Spends the season with the Green Bay Packers in 2021. And then last year, Indianapolis Colts in 2022, where he did make 3 starts. I think at the end of the day, this is a solid veteran signing just to bulk up that depth a little bit. And at the very least, this is a player who has a bunch of experience, obviously doesn't know the scheme because he wasn't here with Nick Sirianni, but he's familiar with this organization. Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, they know him well. Couple of the players on this Eagles roster who are veterans, especially on this offensive line, like a Jason Kelce. Also familiar with him, 130 games under his belt, 54 starts on his resume. Last year, Pro Football Focus numbers as such, only played 240 total snaps, 157 pass blocking snaps, 2 penalties. He gave up 0 sacks, so that's the good. 5 hits allowed, not awful. Here's where it starts to get a little bit hairy, and this is why at this point of his career, more of a depth piece as compared to a starter. And really, this has been the story of his career. He is not really a guy who you want to play in extended action. 33 years old, and then last year, with those Pro Football Focus numbers on the right side of your screen, 14 total pressures, a Pro Football Focus grade of 58.9, a pass blocking grade of 52.9, and then a run blocking grade at 64.2. If he needs to come in for a blink, if an injury does happen along that offensive line, he is certainly capable, and he knows what the rigors are like of playing at this level of football because he's been in the league for more than a decade at this point. So grade the signing of Dennis Kelly and stay tuned. We have some fascinating analytical numbers that we're about to show you. Plus, we're going to have a conversation about this Eagles offensive line because there are some numbers that point to the Eagles offensive line maybe not being as good as it was last year. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you think about the signing of Kelly coming to Philadelphia. Training camp body, not even sure he's going to make this 53-man roster. So, with this Eagles offensive line heading into this upcoming season, outside of losing Isaac Seumalo, everybody returns. And when Isaac Seumalo was on this front 5, every member of that offensive line from last year either was an All-Pro, a Pro Bowler, or a Pro Bowl alternate. ESPN doing their positional rankings, and when it comes to offensive tackle, they pulled all of these executives, coaches, scouts, players. Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata were both in the top 10 for the best tackles in the game. So obviously they anchor Jalen Hurts' front side and his backside. Landon Dickerson has emerged as a really, really good player. When he played his college football at Alabama, he was primarily a center, but the Eagles put him at left guard. Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in the NFL, has done a terrific job of developing him, but also developing Mailata into a great player. Jason Kelce, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, the list goes on and on and on. That's why, a couple of these players have been able to get paid. And Andre Dillard, a guy who goes to the Tennessee Titans because of the development from Jeff Stoutland, able to now be the starting offensive tackle for Tennessee. You have Jason Kelce, who's arguably the best center of all time. Lane Johnson has not given up a sack since November of 2020. Really the only question mark here, and maybe there are two now that I think about it, it's the age of Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce. Then it's the inexperience of Cam Jurgens. He was drafted in 2022 to be the future replacement for Kelce. Last year, he played at under 300 pounds. So he's a little bit smaller playing right guard, and he's not a traditional right guard. But when you watched him in the preseason last year, I raved about his play because of the athleticism, the ability on those pull blocks to get out in space, and the quickness that he has to get to that second and third level to open up some running lanes, either for Jalen Hurts on that zone read, some of the running backs, or the wide receivers on that quick pop pass to the perimeter. And when you're in between, sandwiched between Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce, like Cam Jurgens is going to be, is that going to allow him to get pressure taken off of him, and he can afford to maybe get away with some sluggish, porous play at moments just because he's playing with a couple of future potential Hall of Famers. This is pretty interesting here. According to Sharp Football Analysis, I've been starting to do some prep for this upcoming season, so I'm looking at all these numbers, studying Philadelphia heading into 2023, and some of these in-depth numbers really are fascinating. The Eagles' offensive line last year, which was the best in football, both with the talent and how it was graded, but from the eye test as well, generated 3 or more yards before contact for running backs at the 8th highest rate in the NFL a year ago. This is, though, a little bit of a concern because outside of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, the depth at offensive tackle, somewhat of a concern. Jack Driscoll is certainly capable, and I think that's why Philadelphia is bringing in a Dennis Kelly. It wouldn't surprise me if they make another move at right guard to get some insurance for Cam Jurgens because his backup is Tyler Steen, who the Eagles drafted in the 3rd round. So the Eagles' offensive line allowed pressure last year in 2.5 seconds or less at the 2nd highest rate in the NFL per Sharp Football Analysis. So that is a little bit of a concern because other teams were able to get pressure on Jalen Hurts somewhat quickly. But then there's also this. How are these players going to be able to hold up along that offensive line? We know that injury attrition can really change year over year. And last year, the Eagles were relatively healthy. And that's a big reason why they were able to win an NFL best 14 games. They got that number 1 seed in the NFC, and they were able to make it to the Super Bowl representing the NFC. They were really healthy. Can they stay healthy once again? A lot of their success this year, I do believe, hinges on the health of this overall football team, especially on the Eagles' offensive line, because the Eagles were the 4th healthiest offensive line in football last year. They, all throughout the season, only needed 6 starters along that offensive line, and that was when Lane Johnson got hurt against the Dallas Cowboys in that game late in the season. Something to keep an eye out for as we get closer and closer to the regular season. And let's just hope that this team can stay healthy, because if they're healthy, I think they are locked and loaded to once again be Super Bowl contenders. So grade the signing of Dennis Kelly if you haven't already done so. A, B, C, D, or F as you venture down there. Hopefully we convince you to subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already. Breaking news happens. I'm here to talk about it late on a Wednesday night. My boy Chipper is here as well. He's 2 weeks into the job? 2 weeks into the job, he's already staying late night, burning the midnight oil, and he's an Eagles fan. Go Birds, EAGLES. Thanks for watching, and hit that sub button.